Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. Today we're going to start building the 1/35th scale Academy T34 This is a Berlin 1945 edition, so there's lots of photo etch inside, and that's to make up all of the bed spring armor that the Russians would have put all over this to stop hollow-shaped charged projectiles like the Panzerfaust. So looks like it's going to be a nice kit in there. The bottom is going to be very similar to the T34-76 that we built not too long ago, but the top and the turret and then all the extras that go on are going to make it a completely different kit. And plus we're going to make it in Russian markings as well. So let's get started on it. We're going to begin construction with, this is a multi-part lower hull, but the fit is very, very good on this, so you shouldn't have any problem at all. In fact, once you just line it up, just go down the line, just applying your glue inside there, and you should have no problem getting it to have a nice tight fit. What I'm also, while this starts to set up, I'll just kind of show you real quick too with the suspension. There are 4 different types of suspension piece inside that, because this is going to be inside the vehicle, I just went ahead and marked them beforehand, and we went ahead and glued the springs in on all the other ones. The the spring just attaches easy enough, just right inside each one of these, but each one of them has a very specific shape to it, so you want to keep an eye on that, so when you go ahead to apply it in your vehicle, you'll have no problem getting it in. So I'm going to let that hull dry for a little bit, and then I'll show you how the suspension goes in. One other quick thing, I just glued the other side of this on, and it's still wet. So one thing you want to do is skip ahead a little bit and go ahead and put this middle brace in while the glue is still wet. That way we can get a nice square tight fit all the way across. So once all this gets glued in and let this dry for a little while, you're going to get a very, very straight hull that you won't have any problems, with warpage or anything. And once that dries, just laying out your individual pieces here, you can go ahead and just follow their simple instructions. So it goes AA, BA on one side, and then CD, CC on the other side. But this way you get the right piece, and you're not fumbling while you're trying to build the lower half. The suspension arms are side-specific on this kit, meaning that you have to keep them separated because one side is designed specifically for the one side of it. Once the suspension arm goes into place, locks in really nicely, then you can easily just put the wheel right on after it. A cool little piece of detail that Academy has included with the kit are these little kick plates right here, and it's an interesting story on Russian armor. Is the Russian armor, the track pins that held the track together did not have a connection point on the outside of the track. So what would happen is there would be a bolt in on the inside, that as the track would work, the pin would start to work its way out. And as it came around, it would hit this strike plate, and that strike plate, because of the angle it's at, would knock the pin back into the track, keeping the track in order. And it was designed that way so that Russian crews could easily pull a track. There would be no outer bolts or anything to do. Just up here in the front, you could actually just slide the pins completely out, take the track apart. So a guy with a chisel and a hammer could take all the tracks apart on a Russian vehicle very easily. Okay, I'm going to show you guys a quick, easy way to build up your link and link tracks. This is the length portion of it, obviously. It's the big long piece that's going to go on the bottom. And I've counted out the 8 AB tracks that we need to go around the front of the vehicle. What I find to be easy is we've sanded the outside edge here of all the injection pin marks. And you can just go down the line and just dry fit these together. Just like this. On that side. And then just go down each one of them and put one little drop into the seam, and you'll watch it just wick right down the entire piece of track. Now you need to let these set up for about 5 minutes, and that way you'll get them to be nice and soft, but they won't fall apart because they'll be glued hard enough. And then I'll come back in a few seconds and show you what it's like. Okay, we've let the tracks set up for probably about 4 or 5 minutes now. I was testing them as we went. So we'll just put our long length piece of track up on top. We're going to drop our bottom piece in here, and then just slowly and carefully grab your set of tracks and wrap them around to meet up with the top. Put a little bit of glue onto the connection point, and you want to let that set up for a few seconds before you kick this part over to get the the straight part of the track coming down. That way you don't put too much pressure on over here. And once we let this set up for a few more seconds, we'll go along and put a little bit of glue on the inside of the wheel to attach it all together so it stays nice and sturdy. Got a little bit of fuzz on here from something else here. And you'll do the same thing with the back set of tracks as well. One other quick building tip almost forgot to mention is when you're going to do these individual tracks like this, to leave this the return roller in the back here loose. That way you can get the teeth to line up inside the sprockets inside, because if not, it won't line up perfectly. So I never glued those actually into place. We just placed them in there, and we'll do the final bit of sanding on the outside edge. I just noticed I forgot to do that. But yeah, don't glue that down. That'll make it a lot easier on you putting the back part of the track on. So we let this side of the track completely dry. It's set up. We have a nice mild sag, which came naturally with the preformed track. Had no problems getting all the track all the way around. Just put a little extra glue on the drive sprocket and the return idler, and you're good to go. I also put a tiny bit on the bottoms of the wheels themselves just to keep everything nice and stiff. And we've done both sides of the track, so we're ready now to go on to the upper hull. With the lower portion of the hull completed, we can start adding all of the upper hull parts on, and they are pretty straightforward from all the different vents, hatches, things like that. Now they do give you two options for the rear, and we're going to choose the one that actually puts the photo etch inside of it. I think that looks a lot better, because once you put these louvers in, you'll be able to see through the photo etch into the louvers, and just makes it look a little nicer. And you can put those either open or closed, and once we put a little glue on them, we will flex them in the open position like that. So I am just going to go through and just put all of the extra little parts on the top right now, from the tow hooks, horn, all things like that. Well, we finished up the lower hull. We put all the grab handles on. I did leave the extra track and the tools off for now. I think it'll just be easier to paint those and put those on separately. We also put the photo etch grill on the back here. Now, most of all this is going to get covered with more photo etch that you'll watch me do in a few minutes here. The tracks are all ready to go. I had to put a little bit of filler in the front and a tiny bit on the back, which I'm still in the process of sanding, but it was minor stuff. Just wanted to get a really good fit on it. Although, after looking at images of the real vehicles, giant gaps in the armor are not uncommon at all. So, also, I found it a lot easier. I took most of the sanding off of because there's an injection point right here on all of these grab handles. I found it, once you actually get them glued into place and you let them dry for a couple hours, you can hit them with the sanding stick much easier to sand off that burr to get a nice smooth surface on it, as opposed to trying to sand it while you're holding it. I actually broke one of them in half doing that. So I think it's a little bit easier to do this way. That way there's no stress going on it. So let's move on to the photo etch. I'm going to try to show you a little bit on bending this photo etch. I can't find my photo etch bender anywhere, but if you have a pair of flat-edged tweezers like this, you might not be able to see the scoring, but Academy did score all these pieces. So if you have a piece of flat-edged tweezers, you can actually just bend it pretty easily. Just lining up your tweezers right to the edge of the score and just bending it like that, and you can actually do a pretty decent bend. Now normally I would also go and sand off this little burr, but I find that it's going underneath the other piece of photo etch, so you're not going to see it at all, and it's kind of a pain trying to sand those off. So if it was going to be seen, I'd be taking it off, but if not, like this. I'll show you just one more bend here, and you can see bends up pretty easily, and we'll just bend this last little tiny piece and start putting those on. Remember also, when you're putting this, there is a good side and then just a basic side. You want to make sure that the good side is sticking up because it has more of a three-dimensional effect like springs. This side is kind of more the side that was laying face down on it. Actually, I'm going to try to show you a little bit of the construction here. I just like to put a little pool of super glue down and then lightly dip it in, and then we should be able to place it where we want it. And yeah, actually it wasn't too difficult at all. Do the same thing on the other side. Yeah, easy enough to do. I have to admit, I was a little bit concerned about doing the photo etch on this. Now the next couple of ones after this take a little bit more bends, but I think we'll be able to work through it. So I won't really show you too much more of the putting the photo etch together, but next thing I will show you putting actually on the vehicle. So we got all of the rest of the principal construction done. The turret was very simple and easy to put together, so didn't show any of the building on that. Goes together real simple. One other thing I'll point out to you is I actually had a customer in here a few minutes ago that was asking me a question about why would they put this spaced armor on here, and I just assumed most people would know, but I'll just tell you if you don't. This was designed to stop Panzerfaust or Panzerschrecks that the Germans had developed, which are a hollow-shaped charged projectile, handheld. If it hits armor, it puts because of the shape of the inside of the charge, it puts a molten shot of metal right on through, and it'll burn right through any type of armor. What this would do is this would cause the warhead to explode prematurely with a space between it, and when it explodes with any type of airspace, it will not penetrate the actual armor. So it was designed, they're kind of like what an RPG is now, that if it hits, it penetrates through, but if it can explode just a little bit away from the vehicle, it will not penetrate the outer armor. So these were just put all over the place just to stop that. And they were usually made out of bed springs or chain link fence or anything like that they could get a hold of, just enough to stop it from going on through. So now that we have all the bed spring armor, as I call it, is all built, and we have, like I said, all the construction on this. We did have to do a little bit of puttying here and there just to fill in a few little cracks, but it was minor stuff. So now we're going to go ahead and take it and paint the entire model black and white with our shadow coat. We're going to paint the model first, the NATO black, my kind of like trademark there. And I'm going to show you my new airbrush again because I've had more and more people ask what I'm using. And I've just got the Iwata Eclipse HPCS. I've only painted 2 models with it, but loving it so far. It's just done a fabulous job. It's nice having a brand new airbrush because everything is nice and tight and fits really well on it. So we're going to go ahead and paint the entire model black right now. Okay, we finished up the black and white, and now we're going to spray it with the Russian Dark Olive from Mission Models. This is 34102, and we'll put a coat of that on there. Not too heavy because we want a lot of the fadedness to show through on it. And I've already got it all mixed up in a separate bottle with the 20% thinner, 10% of the poly. So let's go ahead and put that on now. After the paint dried on that color, thought it was a little bit too light for what I was going for with this vehicle. So I went back and added a little black into the mix, just a little bit to darken up the green for the Russian green. Got it to a nice color that we like. Then I went ahead and using 3 different types of masking tape. Started off with the white, real flexible stuff from Tamiya. Went around the entire turret because there are no decals in this kit for the white stripe. There are some numbers which will go underneath this blue area right here. Not a big deal because you don't have to get these perfect, because in real life the thing was actually put on just with paintbrushes, even sometimes mops, just to get the paint on, just so that it was recognition, so they weren't shot at by other Russian tanks. So we've got this on here nicely now, and I'm just going to shoot a little Tamiya white all the way around it, just to get in there. And actually, if a little bit bleeds under, or, under the tape, I think it'll actually probably look really good because it'll be more realistic to what the real ones were like. I am really liking my new airbrush. As you can see by putting this white paint on, that it's really got a fine head to it and does a really nice job applying the paint. Okay, I just pulled the tape off. Like the way it looks right there. We can always do a little chipping around the edge to make it look a little bit more jagged and rough, like some of the paint's coming off. But I'm going to shoot the entire thing now with a Tamiya TS80 dull coat, and that's going to seal in the entire model, and that way we can do our bed spring armor on top of it and any weathering that we're about to do as well. Sprayed the bed spring armor after we had it all assembled, first black, and then after the black dried, I went and misted over with the brown black color that you've seen me mix and use for the tracks. And it's a mixture of about 60% of NATO brown and about 40% NATO black, just mixed together and lightly misted over there. And it might not be very visible in this little picture right here, but up close you can really see it's got just a slight tarnish effect to it. Now we are going to do a little rust effect on it, but not crazy. We don't want to make it look too old, like it's been sitting outside for 100 years. Now that all the paint is dried on everything, and we have that reddish, that brownish black color on here, you can see how it looks up against the green. It's got just a little different tone to it than if you just painted it all solid black. So now that everything's been sealed, we're going to go ahead and start attaching the applique armor on it. Started to attach the armor and almost forgot. I went ahead and painted the 214 number on here just with a brush and white paint. I didn't want to use a decal on it. Thought it would look, the paint color and everything would look similar, and it's normally done pretty sloppy anyway. So we went ahead and put both sides on with the 214, and now we'll finish putting the rest of the armor on. So we have principal construction and painting done now on it. Really like the way the contrast between the green and the kind of reddish or brownish black color, whatever you want to call it, for the bed spring looks really good. So now that we have it all painted and sealed, we've let that dry now probably for about half an hour, and it's completely sealed in with Tamiya TS80, like I said, the flat clear. And now let's go ahead and weather and beat it up. We're going to use a mixture of MIG products, as well as using some of our Tamiya panel liner. Get the front of it there to kind of fill in all the different areas. First thing we're going to do is go over and fill in some of the panels just slightly using the panel liner. And I'm going to start off using the black and just kind of fill in some of the highlight areas on the vehicle. Making sure there's just very, very little on the brush. Kind of highlight some of these. Just really makes things pop out quite a bit. Now we are going to go over it with the enamel thinner later to take off any excess. We're also going to do that all around, like the rivets, or excuse me, bolts on the wheel. You can see how it just makes everything, hopefully you can see. Now that we have that done, I'm going to take a little bit of, like I was telling you earlier, the streaking grime and the light rust wash. And using just slightly, a little bit on areas, we're going to put some little bit of rust into certain areas, like around here where it would accumulate. And the way we start off that is by dipping our brush in enamel thinner and putting a little coat of it down first, getting the area wet. Then taking our brush with the light wash, just dip it into those little areas. Okay, I had a slight little thinner spill, and actually spilt on most of the tank, and we had kind of turned white in some areas. So I went back over and touched those up, but now it's kind of too stark of a green color, just too dark. What I'm going to do now is I've taken my normal green that I have here and I've lightened it slightly, and we're just going to mist on some of the areas like top of the turret to kind of get our black and white technique back. Kind of showed you a little bit here. Hopefully you can see a little better now how we went and faded back in some of the lighter color on top to give it a little bit more definition to the model. Like I said earlier, I spilt some quite a large amount of thinner on it, and normally it doesn't react, but in that amount it turned a lot of these areas white, so I went back in and just kind of touched them up with the airbrush. Stayed away from all of the bed spring armor, but now we're going to have to go back and do a little bit more of our weathering on that as well, putting a little bit more of the grime and the rust inside of all that. We're going to rust up the front track here as well, and I'm in the process right now of putting just a thin little coat down of our desert dust. We're going to use this as a fixing agent, and then a small amount of Vallejo's light sienna. We're going to kind of pack that into, rub it in here. That's going to kind of give it a little bit of a dusty, corroded area. And then lastly, a little bit of their burnt sienna as well while it's still wet. You want to kind of do it kind of blotchy. Now, it looks like it does now because it's wet, but once it dries, you'll be really amazed with the way the tone looks on it. We're also going to weather up the tracks, and we're using our same desert dust and our light sienna mixed together into a slurry. We're just going to, and it looks kind of dark right now, but there again, once it dries, it's really going to dry to a nice kind of flat, light kind of dusty color. So we'll just put it over the entire set of tracks, and then what we can do is just lightly blot it so the high areas are missing the color and just stays in the recesses. And we're going to let that dry for a little while and come back and I'll show you what it's going to look like. Just doing some slight little amount of rusting using our rust wash. Just putting a little bit on some of the areas of the bed spring armor. And it's very, very thin down, so it's going to really lighten up quite a bit once it dries out. But we just want to have a few little areas with the rust, even a few down in through here. And we're also going to do the same process, just slightly on the tracks as well. Hopefully, if you see down here, I'll move this back. We're just going to put a little bit on some of the end connection points, not the parts that would be rubbed too much by the wheels, because most of that rust would kind of come off. And we want just a slight amount of it on here. And after this dries flat, you'll just see it start to pick out a little bit in certain areas. So I'm going to go over the rest of the vehicle doing that, and then we'll apply the tools and show you what it looks like. So here is our completed model. I'm starting off with a zoom in of the wheels and tires to see, show you how that little bit of rust turned out. Still has a kind of a dirty effect to it, but just a touch of rust inside of it. And then as we pull out here, I'll show you the rest of the vehicle. I went ahead and slightly chipped up the white line that went all around the vehicle because it just was too perfect, because it would have been put on, like I told you earlier, with like a paintbrush, so it would have been kind of rough. And you can see a little bit of the rust effect that as it starts to build up in there, as well as on the front tracks. Gonna give you a 360 of the entire vehicle. And also of the top here, you can see how the rust effect just formed, just like a film of rust, almost like the way rust really forms. And then hopefully you can see a lot better now that fading that we took time to do on all those top panels. Adds a nice effect to it to break up the solid green. Anytime you're painting a vehicle that's all one color, trying to make it not so monotonous is always a tough thing to do. So the kit is pretty easy and straightforward as assembly goes. The photo etch, there is a decent amount of photo etch, and they're doing all the bed spring armor, but it's pretty simple. It's just time consuming because most of it is flat panels. A little bit of bending up around some of the top edges, and it's also nice if you can kind of bend it a little bit up to kind of flex it to make it look like it's kind of been beat up a bit. But overall, the kit is very nice, and would highly recommend it if you're looking to do a late war T34 with all the extra applique armor on it. It's a very nice kit. So I want to thank you as always for watching, and please stay tuned because we have more videos coming.